Hey Paisano, it's me, Hamish Steele, and welcome to another Super Mario moment. On today's episode, I'm very excited because we are talking about Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. It is the second game in the Paper Mario series. It is the third Mario RPG overall. It came out for the Gamecube in 2004, and it received a very loving and lavish remake last year. And to talk about this very seminal game and beloved classic, I have brought on an artist, an animator, and probably a bigger Mario fan than me. I am joined today by Carl Doonan. Thank you for coming on the show. I've been such a big fan for a long time, and you are famous for all kinds of things, but I think you do not hide your Mario fandom.
That's a good way of putting
it. Yeah, I've brought along a little bit of your artwork to show to the video viewers. I'd love to talk about all of it, but before we do, you've also worked on other great things, animated shows and stuff.
I the one most people probably know best is I animated on the Midnight Gospel. I was on 4 episodes of that. I'm still filled with salt at its fate, but
hey,
I'm proud of what we managed to do.
I know the pain. No, it was a wonderful show, and it came out, at least for me, at exactly the right time, because that was like a lockdown show, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was right at the start of lockdown, and it had a lot of messages that I think really hit home for the people that did see it.
Yeah, we were working on Dead End at the exact time it came out, and we actually did like viewing parties over Zoom for it because we all loved it so much. I will say everyone was watching on their separate accounts. We were just like on Zoom together. So we were definitely doing our best to get the views up and all that stuff. So I'm going to put some of your Mario artwork on the page on the screen. I'm going to start with your very earliest stuff I could was shown, very relevant for this game, which is some actual artwork from 2005. You just said before.
Right. I got the game for Christmas 2004, and in 2005, after spending most of my childhood just the only way I would use the internet, I would go to the official Cartoon Network website and the official Nickelodeon website, and then all of a sudden one day I was looking at Mario stuff, and I stumbled upon a drawing board called the Koopatorivum, and I was like, oh, I can draw things on the computer and share them with other people. And I started drawing with the mouse, and fan art for Paper Mario 2 is sort of what I credit to give me the spark to really pursue art beyond just a little thing on the side.
Yeah. I feel bad. Sorry, I feel bad showing this straight away as if it's all done, because you've come a very, very long way. I'm going to put on the screen for those listening on audio an animation, which you're going to be able to hear. And then we can talk a little bit about just in general what you were saying about how Paper Mario inspired your art, but in general, yeah.
Yeah, it came, I was, 14 going on 15 at the time. So, it was in that peak creative moment in my life where I was just like ready for it. I had my art up until then. It was just like, I'd never shared it with anyone, and no one had ever seen it. And all of a sudden, it was a small audience, it was a handful of people on the internet, but the rush of, oh, other people can see my work and they like it.
Yeah.
Drive.
I mean, I have a similar story. Paper Mario, not just Paper Mario, but just drawing Mario characters in general. I was so fascinated by instruction booklets and things
Yes.
when I was younger, and I'd
Mhm.
like staple together pieces of paper and make my own booklets for made-up games. But weirdly, Paper Mario 1 was, I mean, maybe that's too long ago, but I do remember that I started like a DeviantArt like fan page for Mario with like Paper Mario artwork as the icons. I had a like Neopets chat room called AA, which was about Mario, and Paper Bowser was the image for it. There's just something I believe about the Paper Mario artwork
Mhm.
that kind of makes young artists want to draw in that style.
Mhm.
I'm going to show a little bit more of your artwork because another thing that you celebrate in your art, which I very much appreciate, is the obscure characters of the Mario
Yes.
universe. So this is just one of many pages.
Yes, I did. A couple years back, I did. People do like Drawtober and Inktober, but I decided I did. It was called Mario, no, Mario Obscure, and I
Mhm,
just every day I drew a different obscure pluck from some branch or another of the franchise, and I tried to do a little of everything. Mario Party, Wario, Donkey Kong, the RPGs, the sports games,
mhm,
and there are so many characters in the Mario pantheon that showed up once and that was it. And
mhm.
those fascinate me. Those fascinate me a lot. And
Do you like that they show up once and never come back, or do you obsess over hoping that one day they will?
the latter, like
Yeah.
when I found out enemies from Mario Land were going to show up in Mario Kart World, I practically exploded. I'm like, it's been what 30-something years? Holy
I
crap, they're
know.
doing it! Nintendo is they seem to be loosening their shackles a little bit in that regard in recent
Mhm.
years after the blandification era with New Super Mario
Yes.
Brothers, where they put everything in the closet and decided it wasn't there anymore.
No, we're definitely over that, but we're in a kind of really crazy era, which I don't think we
Mhm.
kind of can see just yet. But I think Mario Wonder, Mario Kart World, and
Yes.
Donkey Kong Bonanza
Mhm.
do suggest a slightly different era. And I think I do wonder if it's because some of the slightly younger creatives
Mhm.
who obsessed over these characters like we did are starting to get more control.
Yeah, you can if you look at the names in the credits, the old guard is sort of starting to take a back seat.
Mm.
Like there are games coming out now where Miyamoto doesn't appear in the credits at all. He doesn't really have a hand, and he's done a lot for like he made Mario. He's done great things, but there's been moments in recent years where you hear him say something in an interview, and you're like,
Mm. Yeah.
there's that
Um,
infamous line. Do we really need a story for this one? And with Sticker Star, that will live on in infamy, even though from what I gather over the years, what ended up happening was less him saying that directly and more so how the director of Sticker Star interpreted it. But
yes.
mm,
Yeah, I mean
you'll only ever learn so much.
the famous kind of Rosalina backstory having to basically be snuck
Mm,
past them. And then she
mhm.
became such a fan favorite, and you wonder like maybe connect these two dots higher ups.
That was a treat, just a little bit.
Yeah. I've just put some Donkey Kong Bonanza fan art
Yes,
up because I think you've really embraced his new expressiveness. Um,
yes. Donkey Kong. I was a late bloomer to loving Donkey Kong. I did not like Donkey Kong as a kid in the SNES era. I thought he was a little creepy, and I was really bad at the games. So they kind of slipped me by until the Wii era when I pulled a full
yeah.
180. And now I basically just have a huge crush on the big muscly lug. So
He is very cute in the new game. I mean, I still find the SNES games too difficult, and the day that I guess demands that I play one of them, um, I'll be doing a lot of research for that one.
the virtual console helps a lot with the rewind and save state.
Yes, I will say that.
I do admire what they were aiming for. They were trying to sort of
absolutely.
shooting above what the SNES could do.
Absolutely. And as a Brit, I have a little bit of pride because those are basically British games, oddly.
Yes.
And just to kind of round off some of the artwork chat, I want to talk about this project because it's obviously directly related to Paper Mario. Tell me through what I'm looking at.
Back in 2000, when I moved in here in Florida with my parents, I started, just casually at first. I started drawing something on the kitchen whiteboard every day, and it's one of those rare times where I actually got a habit to stick. And I've recently passed. I have drawn something on that whiteboard every day for 5 years straight. And when I find a theme I like, I tend to stick with it. And I basically drew every single character in the first Paper Mario all in a row. It took several months.
I saw you continue to Thousand Year Door as well. I just couldn't get it all on the screen.
Up broken up a little bit more, but I did eventually draw almost everyone. I held off drawing the end boss because at the time they had just announced the remake. And I didn't want to spoil it for anyone that hadn't gotten a chance to play it in the last 20 years. Because I'm still mad at my younger self for looking in the back of a strategy guide in a store and spoiling the end boss for myself.
Well, I have been spoiled about a recent game in a similar way. So shall we say, I won't say any more than that. Let's talk a little bit unrelated to the artwork for a second, what your actual history is with Mario in general. Was Paper Mario Thousand Year Door your first game?
Far from it. I was born, release dates were a little shakier back then. We don't know if, because they didn't keep as good of records, but on the books, I was born on the day Super Mario Brothers 3 came out, February 12th, 1990. And I basically just sort of, can't think of a point in my life where I haven't seen some form of Mario, because I grew up with two older brothers. There was a big gap. They were 80s kids. And I've just always, there was always from the get-go an NES in the house. So I always knew, Mario 1 through 3. And it stuck with me from there. We got the SNES later than most. We were a Genesis household for a while. But around the mid 90s, we got our hands on one, and just by that point, the huge backlog that had come with it. I Super Mario World, I ended up playing All Stars, and then the big one that stuck with me was, of course, Super Mario RPG, which hit my imagination like a truck, because that's the first RPG I ever beat. It took me probably longer than it should have, because back then the concept of not running away from every other regular battle hadn't quite stuck. And I got way farther in that game than I probably should have been able to, just by sheer force of buying a zillion pick-me-ups, ham-fisting my way through it. But that one did always stick with me. And then, from there, when they announced Super Mario RPG 2 at the time, Paper Mario, I was on the verge of exploding with excitement. And then I was a little confused, probably at the time with the title change. But the RPGs in particular have always stuck to me down to my core. Like at the core of everything creative I do, you're gonna find some influence from either my RPG, Paper Mario, or Mario and Luigi.
Well, I mean, I have a very similar, almost spookily similar experience. I was born in 1990. I have two older brothers with a big gap. So yeah, I was brought into a house where the first 3 Mario games were being played kind of on loop. But then, as I'm sure I'll complain about at length in many episodes, Mario RPG did not come out in Europe. But I remember the previews for it in magazines, and it just never came out.
That always hurt. Because there was plenty of games in Japan where you'd see the magazine screen saying, "Oh, I can't wait till that gets here." And
for sure, I think Xenoblade Chronicles came out in Europe and not in the US for a little
that was a
while.
Rare reverse.
And that was our payback for all the RPGs that never came out. And I had the bizarre result that everyone in the Xenoblade series now has weird British accents. Anyway, massive tangent. But yeah, so for me, Paper Mario 1 was a huge game for me. And it's definitely, like you said, it ignited your imagination because these weren't games up until that point that really, really focused too much on story. But I would be fascinated by the crumbs you got, whether it was the little bit of storyline in the instruction manual, whether it was the stuff from I was reading the comics, or I basically had a few issues of the comics that I'd read on loop.
I had when I was a kid, I had handed me down for my brothers. They had like a big omnibus of a bunch of the Nintendo Power comics for that bizarre Mario Land where he comes in the real world, and
yes, I've got
Captain
that.
N and Punch Out and all that.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to dive into the comics in an episode in the future, and all that stuff, all that like extra material was real to me. Like it was as Mario as anything else, and so the Mario RPGs kind of felt like it was the series talking to me on my terms, like actually taking the world to a degree seriously. And to me, I don't really care too much about working out if like Paper Mario is some alternate universe or whatever, blah blah blah. But to me, my idea of the Mushroom Kingdom is so informed by those games, Toad Town and where Mario lives and all that stuff. Like to me, that's the Mario canon in a way.
Yeah. It's like, for as much as sometimes Nintendo likes to trying to map out the Mario canon is a fool's errand, but it's always fun to try. Like, people are going ham on what the hell is going on with DK Bonanza right now. I'm of the theory that that's not the original Pauline. We're on like with a Cranky Kong situation where it's the next generation, blah blah blah. But we see so much more to the characters in the RPGs than we could like ever possibly do in the platformers. Like, Bowser doesn't get much time to shine in the main games. He's in a couple of cutscenes and he's at the end. And in the RPGs, he gets so much more to his personality. He's a big bumbling goofball that loves his son.
Yeah.
And we get a chance to actually see that, as opposed to, I've got Peach again, don't follow me.
Even Mario himself, who is a non-speaking role and I wouldn't say has a huge amount of personality in these games, one of the elements I like about the RPGs is it confirms that he's kind of famous in the Mario world, and that it's kind of everyone's reaction to him as being famous for jumping, and everyone sort of knows his story. That I think is such a good tonal addition to the series. And right from Mario RPG all throughout them, even in Paper Mario 1 when Bowser is the primary antagonist, you see this other side to him that you didn't see in the actual games at all. And it's the version of Bowser that now has carried on into stuff like the Mario movie or the later Mario games, where there's a little bit more cutscenes and story, stuff like Bowser's Fury. So these are really significant. And I think it's a little bit of a shame that while they contribute to Mario so much, it does sometimes feel like Nintendo doesn't kind of count them.
Yeah, it's very rare for anything from Paper Mario or any of the RPGs to leak through. Every once in a while, you get a little something. There's a couple of there's a Mario Party where we got the Star Spirits. There's I think Wacka's in the background of one board in like Mario Party 6 or something, but it's never too much. Except I think the biggest one would be the Goomba King shows up as the Goom Boss in Mario 64 DS.
Yeah, I mean, all of those little crossovers would make me go crazy. I loved all that stuff. I did see in the lead up to Mario Kart World someone maybe making a slightly too excited YouTube thumbnail saying that Paper Mario confirmed stuff, and all it was was that in the ice levels there's like ice piranhas, which haven't technically been in another game other than the RPGs.
Yeah, it's not it. You know, it is a stretch. Like they did technically first appear in the RPGs, but it's not a huge loop of logic to think ice equals blue and then just make the piranha plant blue.
Yeah, I'm hoping one day we get a real meaty sort of. Obviously, like the big one for a lot of people would be someone like Gino and Smash, or even Paper Mario as a character.
I've always wanted the RPGs to get some kind of rep. Because we've got plenty of Mario rep in Nintendo crossover stuff, but like the RPGs have always sort of felt like their own little slice of the pie in the same way that Donkey Kong or Wario or Yoshi get their chunk of the Nintendo limelight.
For sure. Let's move on to talking about the game of the hour specifically, which is Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. Oops. Yes. Where am I going? There we go. So of all the Mario games you could have possibly chosen, I know you've talked about how much this inspired you, but why this over other Paper Mario games?
Well, you know, rather infamously, this is sort of the last Paper Mario game to actually be an RPG. You know, the other ones have had RPG elements, but you know, they're more of just like the flavor of an RPG mixed into a big picture of everything else. And it's every time Paper Mario comes back, you know, there's that wisp of hope, which up until recently has felt like the faintest of faint things that they'll ever do it again. And it's sort of the benchmark of what I would like Mario RPGs to be again.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about the remake at the end, but I think the 1-2 shot of, well, the 1-3 shot, 1-2-3 shot of Mario RPG remake, Paper Mario 2 remake, and then Brothership, sorry, was a kind of interesting, like, oh, okay, someone at Nintendo has suddenly decided that the RPGs are profitable or viable or something. But I think even, I mean, it's not really relevant. Mario and Luigi Brothership didn't completely satisfy me, but
I'd give it a solid B. There were plenty of elements that it was like, thank goodness we can do this again. Like all the original enemies, all the original races, a whole new world. That's the meat and potatoes of the Mario RPGs that I love. But its pacing sure did need some ironing out.
Yeah, it's a very slow game. I would actually go back to it if it got like a Switch 2 update or something, just to speed up some of it.
The benchmark I would give for a Mario RPG is, if I'll ever play it again, if I'll ever replay it, I'd consider that a success. Because I have played the ever-loving tar out of so many of the Mario RPGs, with the exception of a certain special one that I never want to see again, namely Sticker Star. I tried to replay it once and test the theory. Can you, in fact, skip every single regular battle? And you can. You can just blitz through that game, dodging everything, because it's not an RPG.
No. Again, eventually we'll talk about Thousand-Year Door, but I think it's good to talk about the rest of the series, because it was definitely the last of a certain style. What are your, just other than Sticker Star, what are your general overall kind of rankings or thoughts of the rest of the series?
Thousand-Year Door and the original are both up there, not just because of the RPG aspect of it, but just there's a tone and a charisma to those two in particular, even without the nostalgia goggles, that are just really special to me. The first one has a soft storybook. It's a pop-up book, you know, that's what they were aiming for. But there's something about the colors, the sprites, the fairy tale feel of it that I wouldn't mind them ever revisiting again. But on the flip side, the Thousand Year Door has a bite and a style to it. They're always going to be the top two for me.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, I've already made my opinion Sticker Star clear. There are tiny wisps and sparks of the Paper Mario flair in that one. I like the Boo Mansion. The music is still good. And then there was a bit of a rebound with Color Splash and Origami King. They're not 100% of the way there, but they are so jam-packed with charm and fun that it makes up for the fact that their battle systems are kind of a big clunky mess.
Yeah, I think partially the one good thing about Sticker Star is it's so bad that it makes the other two feel quite like surprisingly like if people skipped them because they weren't traditional RPGs and because Sticker Star hurt them, I recommend going and checking them out. Color Splash is obviously kind of still trapped on the Wii U, but it has
I
a
don't
lot
think
of
it's ever gonna leave.
no, it has a lot of kind of funny writing and
the localization team always brings their A game for Paper Mario.
Yeah, and Origami King I think is actually maybe good, like just good, like in general. I do think its battle system is strange and not as fun and not as satisfying, but
it's not a full dud. It's
no.
got enough to keep me going.
And also, oddly, it's a game that made me cry multiple times for multiple reasons. Like it's
yes,
really solid storyline wise and character wise. So
I will take an Olivia over a Kirsty any day.
yes, for sure. I also the first two are kind of neck and neck for me. I think I slightly side with the first one just because I think the word cozy game gets sort of thrown around a lot, but there's something very comforting, I should say, about the first one that I think I replay that one more. But for you and for most people, I think, what do you think Paper Mario Thousand Year Door does better than its predecessor?
The Thousand Year Door has always stuck out to me. It took everything, you know, other than, like I said, that softer appeal to the first one. It took everything I liked about the first one and did more of it. Yeah, just a grander adventure. You know, we spend a little more time getting to know the partners. The battle systems a little more beefed up. They really went out of their way to make the world as strange and interesting to explore as they could. It was at the height of that GameCube period where Nintendo was just like throwing. They were sort of letting their teams do whatever they wanted. Like there was so much bizarre experimental stuff going on, like everything with Mario Sunshine. That I think like once we hit the Wii era, they really hit the brakes, and we like I was saying earlier, it seems like we're finally starting to get that spark back in Nintendo again, where they're letting their teams just make a fun game. Like I read in an interview, Mario Wonder basically had an indefinite exploration period at the beginning to just make as many fun concepts as you want, and when you're ready to make it, we'll start. You know?
Wow. Yeah, you can really feel that. And I think I don't 100% blame them that the GameCube was a bit of a flop and then the Wii was a huge success.
It felt big as a kid, but you look back at the sales and you're like, oh, the Wii did a lot better.
But for sure, like the world building at the time of Isle Delfino and Rogueport, it felt like we were seeing a slightly different side to the Mario series. And definitely I've played Paper Mario 1 and 2, the remake, admittedly, fairly recently back to back. And as much as I sort of side with the first one, I do think Rogueport is a much more interesting hub world to explore. It definitely gives you a interesting impression when you first walk into it.
Does it rather infamously, that noose in the center of the town square it certainly paints a picture that most other Nintendo games would not go out of their way to paint.
No.
And if I was looking at a map, and Rogueport, they squeeze so much personality out of basically like six big rooms. It's not as big as you think it is, but they give the illusion of a much grander city than we actually see.
Yeah, it has obviously a great track, which feels busier than it maybe is. And I think the fact that you're always going up and down to the underground through different pipes, it feels a little bit more just complex, I guess, than Toad Town, which I remember my experience playing with Toad Town is just like getting from one end of a map to another or a room is just so slow.
Which is why that one had the spin dash that didn't come back for
yes.
It's like, all right, we'll give you this
strange spin. So in this game, what would you consider your favorite chapter?
Gosh, that's tough. I've always been very fond of the murder mystery. Not murder mystery, that's the first game, but the train mystery chapter. That one's got so much personality packed into a very small space. You spend most of the chapter just running back and forth in the same couple of train cars, but every character on that train is a great example of what Paper Mario does best, of taking the established races and creatures in the series and just finding ways to make something brand new out of them, just by adding a hat or changing their color or making them old or something like that. They add so much with so little in a way that fascinates me.
No, I that's my favorite stuff too. And I know that, I don't know, I feel like other series like Sonic OCs are very famous. People don't kind of appreciate how much we all still like to design like Mario OCs.
I had a whole set of OCs back then that were a group of gentlemen thieves that were from Poshley Heights, and there was the shy guy girl with gems in her mask that meant she couldn't see, and the piranha plant and his mechanical legs in a potted plant, and my utterly baffling main OC was a serve bot from Mega Man Legends that stumbled upon a warp pipe and got amnesia and now wears a toad hat. And my username for the longest time online was the eccentric servbot. It's still my Steam account name since they won't let you change it.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of sprite editing. And so I would take sprites, oddly a lot from Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga was a big one for me, but also Super Princess Peach had like nice sprites of all the characters because it was sort of in a middle ground between World and Yoshi's Island and stuff.
Yeah, that was they had a lot of that was one of those games they were just out of the blue like, hey, why don't we just pluck a bunch of enemies we haven't used in 1,000 years and give them weird emotions.
Yeah, so I used to create original characters, and I guess it started with Mario RPG with characters like Boshi and stuff, but these two Paper Mario games in a row, giving you like a different variant on a Goomba and a Koopa and all that stuff, would definitely set my imagination alight of like what would be the next band of characters, which we never really got.
Yeah, that was, to this day, even though we haven't had, up until the remake, we hadn't had a Paper Mario with partners for 2 decades. There's still so much fan art online, even from the newest generations of people like, this is my Rex from Super Mario World, but he wears a chef hat and those kinds of things that just so much creativity flowing through that lens.
Yeah. I'm very pleased we get to play as some obscure enemies in Mario Kart World, but I do wish they had a few costumes here or there because
yeah.
they look good.
It was very disappointing. It's like, would you gave us Peepa the ghost, but he doesn't get any costume.
Do you have a favorite partner?
That is hard. I think partner wise, I'm a little more attached to the 1,000-Year Door partners than the Paper Mario 1 partners, because they're charming, but we don't really get to know them as well. The ones in Paper Mario 2, they each have a small arc, but their own little arc.
Yeah.
I think I'd lean towards probably Vivian or Goombella. Those are the they've got the most going on for them. I love the best last bits, but Goombella, if only from sheer volume, you get to spend way more time talking to than anyone else. Every time I play, no matter how much I say I'm gonna, I've heard all this before, I end up doing every tattle in every room on every character with Goombella and reading every last bit. Paper Mario is sort of infamous for being a little too talky for some people's tastes, but that's never bothered me, because every time I play the game, I end up doing a full, not always a full recast, but I end up reassessing which voice actors in my head I use for every character. Some are always the same. Professor Frankly pretty much is always just Professor Farnsworth from Futurama. But everyone else tends to ebb and flow as I watch new media and learn new voice actors and new voices to read them out in. So it's never bothered me that no one will shut the hell up.
Yeah, I mean, Goombella is... I like Goombario as well, but I always felt like Goombella had the potential to cross over the most. But Vivian is almost on a separate league. And if there's one thing that the remake does, I think, better than the original for at least non-Japanese audiences, is Vivian. And A Super Mario Moment is a proud member of the queer podcasting network Glitterjaw, but this is actually our first time overtly where we can talk about some queer representation in a Mario game. I wanted to know if, when you first played the game growing up, if this was something you were ever aware of.
The first time I was playing it, no. There were Mario information was a little scarcer to come by back then, when the internet was not. It wasn't in its infancy by 2004, but it was still. You'd still get big rumors of things that hadn't been debunked yet, and information would trickle in from overseas. And it took a little while for everyone to learn that Vivian was a trans character, because the first version of the story just wiped the slate clean. She was a girl, and that was it. And that, because at the time, Lord knows that the political climate was a heck of a lot different in some ways than it is now. And I was
just gonna say, the poison chalice of visibility that back then. I mean, one day we'll do a proper episode about Birdo and everything about her. I obviously love her, but it's hard to deny that the original intention of her representation was a joke or comedy.
Yes, Japan in particular has the Okama stereotype of it's always less trans and more a cross dresser with a 5 o'clock shadow, a very deep voice, and a very distinctly non-feminine build. And that humor has just kind of hovered around for way longer than you would probably like.
And not to just throw it all on Japan. I mean, the instruction booklets I read that describe Birdo were not any more generous. But I think with Vivian, it's hard to deny that it's sincere. is not really played as a joke, at least in the translation we got.
Yes, I have seen, over the years, there's been sites have posted like direct comparisons of the English localization versus the Japanese text with translations. And if the original Japanese, the party is sympathetic to Vivian, but they constantly refer to Vivian as a boy that considers himself a girl, and Goombella doesn't have the most flattering things to say in a couple of untranslated places, and they handled it so much better in the remake. Subtler, there's only really like one or two lines that flat out state it, but the way they handle it, it was like 1,000 times better than I would have anticipated. There was a period where a lot of people weren't sure if they were going to do it at all, because the world has changed, but Nintendo is still a company that's often trying to cover their butts.
Yeah, I mean, 20 years between them, it would be understandable, I'm not saying right, but if they made the remake like a faithful remake of the original text that we had. It was so interesting that one of the significant changes was to alter that. There's a few sort of old Nintendo games that I do think there's similar kind of an element in Mother 3, which I think is an element that's on the laundry list of reasons why I think it's a difficult game to translate and release. I'm not sure they know how to handle that. A persona,
I don't think they could bring it over without essentially overhauling those characters like from the ground up in some way. Like there's probably a way to do it, but you would have to change things so significantly. I don't think they would be willing to make the expense of that huge a localization if it's just unless the stars align and they like remake the Mother games from the ground up.
Yeah, it's an element that I'm always interested in. There's similar strange dated but interesting queer representation in Persona 4, which just announced a remake, and all the articles I've seen are all about like, what will the gameplay be like, what a this, and all I care about is like, how are they going to write the queer storyline, because it was really weird the first time.
Yeah, I've never played Persona, but I am well aware of Atlus's slightly dicey handling of that kind of subject matter sometimes.
Yeah. Other elements of the story, just the story overall, obviously you like it, but do you have any favorite elements of it?
Gosh, I'm very fond of all the villains, not just Vivian's story, but the Shadow Sirens have a very memorable and iconic design. They're very simple, but they pack a visual punch with that simplicity. And the X-Nauts too. I have always been very fond of all the X-Naut designs. They have a real Power Rangers Sentai villain vibe to them that works really well. In fact, I've always imagined Grotus sounding like the voice actor who played Lord Zed. Specifically, he played Vedamon in the English dub of Digimon. That's the voice I imagined. So it threw me off a little in the remake when they gave everyone unique voice babble sounds, and his was a real deep, which was a full 180 from what I imagined, but it still works.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, the Mario RPGs give us great villains, and that's my biggest, like, more so than the partners. Oddly, I'm sad that they don't cross over more.
Yeah, the villains are a huge part of the RPG's appeal, because Bowser's great. He's a great villain. He's a fun villain, but the Bowser kidnaps Peach shtick has been done so much, and they still find some fun ways to do it, but they've also worn it into the ground across the past nearly 40 years so much that it's no wonder they're finally starting to let Peach not get kidnapped for some games.
Yeah, I think they've actually officially retired that. I
It seems like it.
really don't think she'll be kidnapped again, which is interesting.
Mhm.
And actually, with adding new villains, that makes Bowser a funnier character anyway,
Mhm.
because in basically all the RPGs, when he's not the main villain, he's still there, furious that he's not the
Mhm.
main villain.
Exactly. It's a great character dynamic that brings out the best in the character. It gives him a chance to be a character beyond just the end boss.
Yeah, I mean, my actual favorite segments in both games, especially the first one, are the Peach segments. First time around, because it was a really interesting exploration of that kidnapping plotline of like, what does she get up to when she's kidnapped? But and also because of the character called Twink, which is just I appreciate.
Yeah.
He managed to he's managed to survive his name not being changed. But in the second one, it's like actually quite an emotional storyline.
The character of Tech, in the last few years in particular, the concept of robot that has emotions has sort of lost a little of its flavor in the current political climate, considering the state of AI and people deathly convinced that robots have already gained sentience when no, your autofill has just gotten really, really fancy and complicated. Your computer is not alive yet.
Yeah, I was actually talking about that yesterday because probably my favorite character in fiction is TikTok from Return to Oz and the Oz books. I get emotional even thinking about how much I love like robots, like the robots in Cast in the Sky and things like that. I just love robots. And yeah, it's annoying now that I have to be like, just because I get emotional about a robot wanting to be human doesn't mean that I'm like suddenly amazed by AI art. But yeah, Tech is a great little storyline and very emotional and very sweet.
I think the way that they handle it, his love for Peach is a little abrupt. Like one look and he's head over heels, but they managed to pull a lot of subtle and heartwarming stuff with a very brief amount of time, since you only really get them in the little interstitials. But it's a character where, you know, his sacrifice means a lot, which they undo a little bit in the remake by letting you go back to the fortress, which I don't think was really necessary. But I think that was probably their way of, oh, there's star pieces here that you can miss forever. We gotta let you go back. But you could have just left the room locked.
Yeah. I didn't even know that was an element. I think the remake is overall a good remake. It's like a very polished, but yeah.
The remake was a rare instance of a remake being everything I wanted out of a remake. They added enough and they polished enough in all the right ways that I wasn't like, there are some remakes where they go way too hard, just like rebuilding everything from the ground up to the point where sometimes it's barely recognizable. Like I had never even played the original Spyro games, but I did play the remakes, and having seen footage of the old ones, like the cast is a new set of characters. They're completely different. They went from Muppets to Pixar in a way that, like looking back at the old footage, I'm like, I like this old stuff a lot better. I like the simple colors and the big, bold, simple designs. I didn't need them to see every skin fold and freckle and pox mark on their skin.
Yeah, a lot of remakes can sort of miss the intention of the original art direction in quite a weird way. Just in the interest of making everything as sharp and colorful as possible. But I think I think Rogueport and everything, it had that still grimy feeling. Yeah, they didn't go overboard. And also there was just moments where something that the Gamecube could do really well is like thousands of characters on screen.
That was the gimmick. I remember in interview, that's the gimmick that got Miyamoto to let them do another Paper Mario, was like they were sort of struggling a little to get him to. He's like, it's just like the last one, and then they showed him the concept of a zillion simple characters on screen at the same time. And like, oh, okay, now you're onto something.
I mean, he was very Pikmin pilled at that point.
I do love that the punies in Chapter 2 are essentially an homage to Pikmin, from their design down to their gimmick, and that's something that's nice in the remake, is they aren't nearly as much of a pain in the butt to keep all the ducks lined on a row.
Yeah, I mean, the Paper Mario, this game is fantastic, but it does have its fair share of backtracking, and even
Paper Mario 2 has a lot of going back and forth down the same hallway over and over again.
Yes, I was shocked how much I remember loving the Glitz Pit stuff much more than I ended up enjoying it on this remake, because like story-wise and the idea behind it is great, but then you realize it is just walking up and down corridors and doing quite easy battles for a long time.
They make up for it a little bit with all the characters in Glitzville. Their dialogue changes like every couple of matches in the Glitz Pit. They've always got something new to say. So I would still end up talking to everyone, and that made up for a little bit. But you do end up going down that backroom hallway, I think, like 100 times.
Yeah, it's a little shame. But I think there's a few games from this era where they're clearly hiding something being rushed, or like maybe there was grander plans for more worlds to explore, but like I think about the sort of fact that like one of the temples is just sort of missing in Wind Waker, and
that's a pretty infamous one.
Things like that.
And then everyone gets their hopes up when there's a remake, like, oh well, maybe they'll add the temples, and it's like, no honey, they use those ideas in another game probably.
One final little story element that I've always been a big fan of, and I'm sure ignited your imagination, is Luigi's contribution to the story.
Everyone really wants Nintendo to make that adventure, and I think that's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
The entire gag of Luigi's adventure in Paper Mario 2 is that he's an unreliable narrator making up a bunch of bullplop.
Yeah, it's like his version of the story. Even his version of the story sounds like it's almost commenting on the fact that there won't be a third Paper Mario game, because he's just sort of doing find and replace. But yeah, it only makes sense if you start talking to his companions, who I think have really fun designs in the same vein.
Yeah, they're really fun. I like that they managed to squeeze Screamy. The last one he gets was an enemy that was supposed to be in the main game, because there are files of several different colors of that character, and I'm glad they were able to squeeze that little bit of life out of something that was on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, Luigi's always fun to squeeze into his games somehow. He's like in the credits of Mario RPG, I think, but very briefly, and I think he does sort of disappear a bit in Paper Mario 1, or he just stays home.
Which is a cute, getting to read his diary and all that is a really fun Easter egg. And he gets a little time to shine in Super Paper Mario, but he's the last partner you get at like the tail end of the adventure, and he breaks a lot of boss battles. The boss battle in chapter 7 takes like 15 seconds, because you just do his super jump over and over again into the Chill Bone, or whatever his name is, Bone Chill.
I mean, again, but then Mario and Luigi series came along, so that sort of
that he gets plenty of time to shine in those games. It's those games and Luigi's Mansion sort of helped his personality, apart from Mario, congeal beyond just being player 2. Scaredy Cat is a simple personality trait, but it's a solid one.
It's more than Mario can really say. Yes. I just wanted to end the Paper Mario chat by asking if you've ever played Bug Fables, because I haven't, but for a long time. Yeah.
I played tiny chunk of Bug Fables. I had a free month of Xbox Game Pass going on, and I started it up, and I had no real desire to go back to it once I did that chunk. It's got some charm going to it. Their heart's in the right place, but it didn't do it for me. The writing, they were trying something, but it didn't really stick with me. And the visual style is really rough. It's really rough.
Yeah, I feel like there's a real genre of indie game which is let's make another one of the game series that's dead, or and I do admire it, and I'm kind of interested to play it, but yeah, it's sort of, I don't want to rag on it an indie game too much, which I've not played.
Yeah,
but I would say that
got fans. It's got plenty of fans that love it for what it is.
But I just think
maybe they'll do another one.
Yeah, it's not the art style. It's kind of learnt some things from Paper Mario, but it doesn't quite seem like it knows what was so appealing about that art style. And I would love it. I think the same game in a different art style or a different unique look would be more interesting to me than something that's like I can just go play Paper Mario. Like if you know,
there's practically a subgenre of indie game now that's like the Paper Mario. Like you're seeing it pop up a little more often. I think there's like a whole indie game engine now that's dedicated to making Paper Mario style visuals, type of a deal.
Yeah. That part of the episode where we do quick fire questions. So I'm going to start by asking you a bunch of questions about Paper Mario and you. If you could live anywhere in Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, where would you live?
Well, there's a lot of places in Thousand Year Door that look pretty, but I would probably die. I would the easiest would probably be Poshley Heights because it's a fancy place, but I don't really think I want to be surrounded by cartoon level snobby people. So I think I would want to go with, if I could find a nice spot in Bogley Woods with like a nice little house like Flurry's got going on. That place is absolutely beautiful. That's one of the most visually stunning parts of the game.
I agree. If you were a badge, what effect would you have on Mario?
Yeah. Gosh, it's tempting to say I'm one of those badges that like hampers your progress that you put on for a challenge run. But I don't know. Maybe I'd be a badge that changes up its color palette, like the W badge or the Ella badge.
Which Paper Mario partner would you be friends with in real life?
Probably Goombella. We could probably have a nice, stimulating conversation.
The only other person that like cares enough about Mario facts is you. Which type of Mario enemy that hasn't been a Paper Mario partner before would you like to be done in the future?
Ooh, that's tough because it's been so long that we've got like an encyclopedia's worth of enemies to choose from. But I think a lot of the enemies in Mario Wonder have a lot of potential. There's so many strange and weird little goobers in that one. Like you could have a Mama that just you save enough FP and have it eat something whole or something like that.
I like that. I'd like a Wiggler companion.
Yes, there's been a long tradition of Wiggler showing up in Mario RPGs. He's a boss in every Mario and Luigi except for the latest one. But the Wiggler has a lot of potential.
I'm going to ask a couple more questions, even though the music stopped. Do you have your own Glitz Pit wrestling name?
No. I can't fight to save my beans. I don't think I'd even step foot in the ring.
And then finally, because you have drawn many obscure Mario characters over the years, if you could add one obscure Mario deep cut character to the regular roster of Mario Kart, Mario Tennis, all that stuff, Mario Party, who would you choose?
Gosh. Gino is the popular pick because everyone loves Gino, but I would really love to just manically drive down the track as Fuffle. Just just an absolute little nutball driving down the track, tossing bombs and giggling like a maniac.
I didn't show this earlier, but got some lovely Fawful art here of yours.
Yeah, it's one of the favorite things I've ever done. I'm a little bummed. I had it on my my TeePublic for a little while, and then it got copyright struck, despite the fact that Nintendo is never, ever, 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 ever going to make Mario and Luigi themed merchandise. But what do I know?
It might be the Bowser, but I like to think that there's some Nintendo lawyer who's scanning for Fawful fan art. I always think that Fawful is like the unofficial mascot of the Mario RPGs, along with Gino. And poor Mallow, he doesn't get as much love, but he's a great little guy.
Mallow has, like, Gino's the poster child for this is the character we want back, but we get to know Mallow a lot better. Gino shows up, he's like, I'm from the stars and I'm cool, and that's his character, and he is cool, and he's got a gun for a hand, but it's sort of the Boba Fett effect, where people remember a lot more to the character than there actually is.
I mean, I've been asking every guest this question about which obscure character they bring back. I might start doing a tally, because I think we have a couple for Wart. If you want to do Fawful, I think I'll make people know that that's one of the options. And then at the end of this podcast, we'll send a big letter to Nintendo and ask them, Captain Syrup needs to be in Mario Tennis.
Gosh. You could do a whole podcast dedicated just to characters that deserve to come back, or characters that showed up once and never showed up again.
Well, I have a lot of faith that the Paper Mario franchise is coming back.
The remake completely rekindled my faith. Like, I was still enjoying Paper Mario for what it was, but it was essentially a different set of games. It was a new set of fun little adventure games that weren't RPGs. But this remake, between how much love you could tell they poured into making it both authentic and better than it was before, and the fact that they really didn't have to, because out of nowhere, Nintendo, no one thought they were going to do GameCube NSO. And then that came out of the blue, and it's like they could have just dumped Paper Mario with, a res bump on the NSO, but instead they remade this game from the ground up. And a part of me is convinced it was a practice round that they want to bring back the old style. A lot of people doubt it, but I've got faith at this point.
Yeah, I don't think the Paper Mario team have ever really stopped working. If it's any of the same team or same department or other, don't fully know how it works. But there's been consistently a Paper Mario game or two per console. So I think something is being cooked up. So I will have you back to discuss Paper Mario 7 or whatever it is at this point when it finally comes back. But thank you so much for coming on a Super Mario moment.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
If you'd like to take a moment to plug anything or talk about your work, please do.
I'm at Carl Doonan on all the sites. I don't use Twitter anymore. I have the site, but it's locked down. I don't post on there now. Blue Sky is sort of my main place, and like I mentioned before, I post. I haven't broken the streak yet. It won't be a big deal if I do, but I post a whiteboard drawing every single day. That's sort of my big personal art project. I have it's on sort of indefinite hiatus, but I do have a little indie cartoon of my own called Voids of a Feather. That's spelled VOYDS, Voids. That I'm still really proud of, even though it's probably going to be on the back burner for Lord knows how long. But I do want to return to it someday. And most what you'll most probably see from me in the coming years is I've been doing a lot of indie stuff with Jellybox. He's an indie animation studio that I absolutely love working with. I animated on a little series called No XP, NOXP. That's a charming little homage to RPGs, and I've done a couple other bits and bobs. I worked on the trailer for Grapple Dog 2.
No, I love those games.
Wonderful wonderful little indie studio that I love working with. So definitely check them out, and definitely hire them to make more things so they can pay me money to do that.
I love your work, and you've got
you.
such a wonderful Oh, thank you. But you have such a wonderful backlog of stuff to look at, as well as all this exciting stuff for the future. Just to briefly plug my own stuff at the end of this episode, as I always try to do, my book Go-Man, Champion of Earth, comes out this month, so pick it up or pre-order it if it's not out yet. And I hope you enjoy it. It's very colourful and very, not really Mario themed, but if you like Mario, you'll probably enjoy it. As for a Super Mario Moment, we are Super Mario Moment on YouTube, Instagram, and Blue Sky. We are a proud member of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcasting Collective. They have lots of great shows, including a video game podcast or two. One's called Novel Gaming, and one is a Simpsons gaming podcast called Lee Carvalho's Podding Challenge, which I think is one of the best podcasting names in the world. And lots of stuff to check out. It's very good. So until next time, where our next episode, I believe, will be Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. I have been Mario, this has been Carl, and I will always try and remember to end the episode by saying, so long, gay Bowsers.